Hi guys, we're going to dig into our first math lesson. So we're going to hit on what is rounding and how do we round basic numbers today. We're going to start basic and then we'll build to those larger numbers tomorrow. Okay, so this is a review topic. We know you talked about rounding last year, but we want to make sure that when you're rounding, you're really understanding what you're doing when a number is asking you to round it. When we get into some more standards throughout the year, we're going to be rounding decimals. So we want to make sure we really have it as a whole number before we dig any deeper. So first, I want you to think about what rounding is. And I'm going to show you how we can do that. So if we're just starting with a 2-digit number, let's say 26 is our 2-digit number we're just going to start with. I know that's very basic, but I want to start small and get bigger. So if this was asking to be rounded to the nearest 10, that's where you're focusing. And if we think about 26, what are the two closest tens to the number 26 on a number line? So if, let's say, my number line is going by 10s. 10s, 20, 30, 40, obviously not to scale because I'm just drawing it quickly. 26 is going to fall about here, right? What are the two tens that are closest to that number? So it's either going to be 20 or 30, somewhere in there. So let's focus on that. Those are our two benchmark or option numbers, okay? So we have 20 or 30. That's what it's asking us. When you have the question, round 26 to the nearest 10, that is saying, is 26 closer to 20 or closer to 30? Okay? That's what rounding is. What's it closer to? So let's figure that out. If those are my two options, I want to find the middle point because it's a good place to break it to see if it's what side it's closer to. So middle point between 20 and 30, if you know it great, it's 25. Okay? 26 is obviously going to fall right here. Try to make that dot big so you can see it. 26. So now, what is it closer to? Is it closer to 20 or is it closer to 30? Well, now that I can see it, it's much closer to 30. Okay? So 26 rounded to the nearest 10th, not 10th, 10th, is 30. And if you've heard before, look next door, 4 or more, 4 or less, let it rest, 5 or more. All of that is coming from where is it closer to? Sorry, I don't want to get too far off of that, but that rhyme and things you've probably heard, 4 or less, that's because that's going to be on this side. So it's going to be closer to the one that it's already in. 4, 5, and more is closer to your next number. Let's do a 3-digit one. Come down here. I have 723, and I want to round to the nearest 100. Here's my 100. So that's what I'm focused on. Now think all the way back to a number line and counting. We have 500, 600, 700, 800. What number is this going to be between? That's going to be between 700 and 800. The middle number is going to be 750. So now I can see that 723 would be on this side. Ish. Be there-ish. So now it's easy to see. Is it closer to, because that's what rounding is. Rounding is what in that place value is it closer to? Is it closer to 700 or 800? Well, I can see that it's closer to the 700. The same that I can see there's a 2 here. 4 and less, it's going to be on this side. Okay, it's going to be closer to that 700. And why I'm showing you this instead of just having you remember some rhyme is because I want you to know what you're really doing when it comes to rounding. All right, one more example for you today. We're still going to look at a 3-digit number. Tomorrow we can get in 4 digits and more. So if our 3-digit number is 329, I'm going to round this to the nearest 100 and the nearest tens. 329. If I'm rounding to the nearest 100, remember, that's asking me, what 100 is it closer to? Is it closer to 300, where it's already in, or 400? Because we know that number falls in between those 100 spots. Now, what's in the middle? 350. And if I look here, if I'm starting to get rounding, I notice that's a 2. So that's 4 or less. It's going to fall on this side, right about here. So now it's easy to see. What is it closer to? Is it closer to the 300 or is it closer to the 400? It's closer to the 300. So 329 rounded to the nearest 100 is 300. Because what that's asking you is what 100 is it closer to? Well, it's closest to 300. Now, if I'm doing the same number, 329 to the nearest 10, I'm going to focus here now. What 10 is 29 in between? Well, it's in between 20 and 30, right? Well, sorry, 330 to be exact, and 320. Sorry about that. So it fits in between 320 and 330. The middle is going to be 325. And if I'm placing that number, it's going to be all the way down here. So now I can visually see 329 is much closer to 330 than it is to 320. So 329 rounded to the nearest 10, or what is the nearest 10? What's the closest 10 that it is to the 10 equals 330. Notice that anything after that position I was looking at becomes a 0. Okay? So here, since I was looking at the 10s to decide, 10 and 1s both became 0s. And here, since I was looking at the 1s to decide, it became a 0 after I decided, after I figured it out. So yes, it is true that 4 and below, you are going to let it rest and stay in the position that you're in. And that 5 and up, you're going to look at that next one, but you need to know what the next one is. Okay? So you're going to try some examples of that today.